Oakley dokley. So welcome to Scouching's 2022 NHL Draft Recap Series. Today we're looking at the New York Islanders as I smack the green screen behind me. So the New York Islanders have been an interesting team to watch over the last few years with their drafting. Obviously, last year with Atu Ratu, nobody could have seen that one coming. But they've come a ways in terms of their youth program. They're adding some decent options. Not a ton of them, but they are adding them at their own pace. But their interest seems to be winning games. So we'll see how that goes for them in the NHL. But we can take a quick look at their NHL draft picks here. So Calle Odelius at 65 was a no-brainer. There were times this year where I was watching Odelius going, this might be one of the better puck possession defensemen in this draft, period. Like, really evasive, really skilled. I think the defensive game has a long way to go. I saw some moments that were just not good. Stopped moving his feet in bad situations. When he would keep moving his feet to apply pressure in the corners, he just didn't have enough physical strength to do much. But he's very crafty with the puck, very creative, really strong on his outside edges with crossovers and such to fend off pressure. Really good work in the blue line on the power play and at even strength for his team. A really, really interesting player on the back end there. I'm not sure he's like a massive point producer one day, but a really interesting skilled possession guy. Obviously not comparing him to Devin Taves, but I could see that kind of being the direction I would take him, where Devin Taves is a good puck possession guy, a really skilled defenseman, and his defensive game, he kind of relies on his feet and his stick a lot to play defense rather than physical in position, which is something he can do, but you don't see it as often from what I've seen of Devin Taves over the years. And I think Odelius maybe is cut from a bit of the same cloth, even if he doesn't have quite the upside or talent level right now. But Devin Taves was a free agent signing from college, and Calle Odelius, who knows if he can get there in the next 4 years. Quinn Finley at 78. I popped in and out on Quinn Finley because he was ranked quite often, and I just never really saw it with him. I just felt like he was a CHL, USHL, regular old top six forward down at that level. Didn't really bring much to the table where I'm like, holy crap, this guy brings a lot to the table in terms of skill or finishing ability or upside. But again, if this is a personality draft pick where they really like the kid and they like his work ethic and they've heard really good things about him and they think there's a bottom six role for him or something, if things go right, then I could, whatever. I can't say that's impossible. I would have swung on someone else maybe at 78, but, he's not a nobody. At 98, they drafted Isaiah George. Now, this was later than I thought George would go. There was part of me that thought George would be like a second-round pick because of the type of player that he is and how in vogue a type of player like Isaiah George is. I thought his showing at the Top Prospects game when I saw him in person was not great. But you see a guy who I think can play a strong defensive game. A lot of people... When I look at the Anaheim Ducks taking Tristan Luneau, or I guess Noah Warren's a better example. When I see Noah Warren going 40 picks ahead of Isaiah George, I'm sitting there going, yeah, you know what? I'd rather sit back and draft George later if that's the type of defenseman I'm interested in. Mobile, I think George has skill, but I don't think he was allowed to use it very much either. I remember seeing a few times where he'd juke off a forechecker and then pop it off the glass and out under no pressure. And I'm going, well, you've got plenty of runway to work with. I don't, and they're playing this sort of dump and chase sort of brand, which it just feels kind of odd to me. But I like Isaiah George. I think he brings some good traits to the table. I think he's got that physical edge to him as well defensively that was actually very effective when he needed to pull that skill out. So I like the Isaiah George pick at 90. He was ranked 60th on my board. It's good value. Matt Maggio at 142. He's one that I hadn't seen much going into the draft, so I watched him post-draft. I could see him being really high in the OHL scoring race next year. He's turning 20, so he's on the older side, and he doesn't play with the highest pace, I would say, especially for a guy maybe a bit on the smaller side. But I do look at him and go, yeah, there's a really strong delay and deception game. He scans the ice really well. Just a really dynamic winger up front. Scans the ice, changes angles, times his passes really well. A really quick finisher in open ice when he's got a goalie one-on-one. I think he's resilient and determined with the puck, especially watching him post-draft. I really was interested in Maggio being a pick at 142. He's on the older side, like I said, and I think he lacks the true sort of strength and awareness to project to get into scoring areas more consistently. But I think he's an admirable player to watch, and I think he's got bright moments that can be leveraged. At 142, like, if his name came up and I had seen what I saw post-draft on him and the name was percolating on my scouting team, I'd have no problem taking a swing on Matt Maggio. So I think that's a really interesting re-entry pick for the Islanders to take there. They have Dalen Kufler as well, who's even older than Matt Maggio. They took him at 174. I mean, he's big. I think he plays with a lot of determination. I didn't think he was particularly great in terms of his skating nor his skill, but I mean, he's a bottom six guy that gets to the net. He works hard to get there. It's meat and potatoes. It's boring, but it's effective. I don't have huge hopes, but if you plant him in the front of the net, make him a checking forward, slap in rebounds on a power play, clog the front of the ice or the middle of the ice on a penalty kill, sure, I can see Dalen Kufler being a thing. I didn't really see a ton, but, what else is new? And Kufler could be maybe a bottom six guy, maybe, if things go really, really well. But considering his production rate and his age already, I feel like that's a long shot. So I thought the Islanders did pretty well picking up guys like Odelius and Maggio in terms of upside. Isaiah George, I think, there's flaws in his game, but I could see him being a minutes eater at some point down at the bottom end of your lineup. Wasn't really a huge fan of Quinn Finley's pick or Dalen Kufler. I don't think any of these guys bring massive NHL upside and likelihood. So when all things are put together, I think with the New York Islanders, I'll be giving them a 2D. I think that I originally had them in a 3, but I do really like the Odelius pickup and think there's a ton of upside. I do like their draft more than Pittsburgh and Detroit. I do really like Matt Maggio. I do like their draft more than Pittsburgh. It's probably about on par with Detroit. Vegas, like, all these teams are really close considering where they drafted, what they had to pick with, and who they ended up with. I think the Islanders have a nice combination of high upside with guys like Maggio and Odelius, maybe some NHL time with a guy like George. Kufler and Finley, I don't have huge hopes for, and we'll see what happens with them. But all in all, I'd say they were about average, and maybe here and there could have done a bit better, but there weren't that many guys at 65 that I would have really, really pushed for, but Odelius would have been on that level, so that pushes them into a 2 from the 3 I already had them in. So anyway, that's going to be it for the New York Islanders video. Tomorrow, don't go very far, it's not going to be very long, but tomorrow will be the Colorado Avalanche. So we'll see how quickly I can fire that one out. So join me tomorrow for the Colorado Avalanche recap. It's going to be a fun one, and we'll see you there. All right, see ya.